Hi everybody, I am Michele Mancusi and thanks for the invitation and to participate to this event. Now I worked at Sony in Stuttgart and now I'm working at Moises. The company, the main product of the company is basically source separation, and recently the company has been released the STEM generator model. Today I talk about three of my papers recently published on STEM generation and source separation with diffusion models. In particular, I'll be focusing on inference technique in order to condition the generation of diffusion models at inference time. So let's talk about a bit of the background. So for diffusion, everybody knows this, but just for a recap, the diffusion model doesn't learn directly the probability distribution over data, but it learns the score function, that is the gradient over the probability distribution of our data, by corrupting data with Gaussian noise, and then the network learns how to denoise the noisy sample, basically following the probability flow ordinary differential equation. At the first time, basically, once you have trained your diffusion model, you can sample from it, starting from a Gaussian noise and retrieving a clean sample, following this the reverse time ODE. So the target is to learn the score function and is equivalent the score in order to learn the score function. This is equivalent to predict this equation. So this is formula. The output of d theta is the output of the network. Xt is the sample at time t, and at inference time, as I said, we start from Gaussian noise, so pure Gaussian noise, and integrate the reverse ODE in order to generate new sample that belongs to the manifold. So let's talk about this work, multi-source diffusion models for simultaneous music generation and separation. This paper has been published at ICLR 2024. It's only 1 year ago, but it's like a prehistoric paper right now, after we listen to some samples. And in this paper, we explored how we can exploit diffusion models in order to perform multiple tasks. In this paper, basically we train just one diffusion model, let's say, with one dataset and without any conditioning. And at inference time, we perform multiple tasks. We can perform multiple tasks, so generation, in-painting, and separation. So motivation. Basically, there are different models nowadays that can generate music. Okay, some of them can generate mixtures, but then you lose per stem control on the generation, or many others can generate just single stems, but you lose interdependence between them. Instead, we wanted to generate simultaneously many stems at a time that are coherent among them. So basically, we wanted to learn this more or less this joint probability over the stems. The compositional generation is a really important process for a musician, as also we have seen in the in Sony presentation from Javi. It's really important and it's really tough because one artist wants to have access directly to the source, to the stem, in order to be able to modify the stem, and wants to have a fine-grained control over the stem, over the generation. It's with model like say Udio and Suno, it's really difficult because you don't have access to the stems. You only have access to the mixtures. Nowadays, Suno and Udio offer stems after the generation, but because they separate. They generate the mix and then they separate, and then you have access to the stems, but it's not like stem generation. Okay, so let's say with stem control, you can drop a track, you can generate another track if you don't like it, or you can also, with our model, if you have a mixer, you can extract for example, if you are a DJ and you want to perform a remix of or a mastering of your song, you can extract sources and yeah, basically you can access directly to the stems. So the contribution of this paper are multiple. At least when this paper was published, we were the first model able to perform both generation and separation simultaneously. We defined a new task called partial generation or inpainting, and yeah, we also defined a new procedure called Dirac sampler for the separation task. We will see them in details in the next slides. So given the stems x1 xn, the mixtures is basically the sum over the stems, and with our we wanted to learn the gradient of the logarithm of the joint probability distribution. So if we learn the joint the score function over the joint probability distribution at inference time, we can generate multiple stems that are coherent between them, so that in a way that when you sum them up, you get an actual song. Okay. Okay. So yeah, this is the we work with 4 stems because we mainly work with Slack that is a dataset of MIDI wave files, but synthesized starting from MIDI. Okay, so these are not like good quality recordings at all, but the pretty huge dataset, because yeah, in order to train a diffusion model, you need to have quite a big dataset. Yeah, so formally the model learns learns this joint probability distribution. So just to recap, total generation after training the model. So basically we inject the stems. We sample a track. We sample a chunk of this track. We inject noise, and then we add noise, and then we inject this noisy sample into our models, and we ask for the clean samples. Okay, this is like a general procedure for diffusion models. And at inference time, we were able to perform this task. So total generation, basically, we sample all the stems. Just starting from pure noises, 4 pure noises, we asked the model to sample and denoise these 4 noises, and at the end we got 4 stems coherent between them, and so you can get a song, more or less. Partial generation or imputation, where you can fix a subset of your stems and you can generate the other stems based condition. So basically, you condition the generation of some stems based on the other one, even if at training time you have not conditioned at all the model with anything. So separation is the most delicate point, because here it seems that you need to train the model in order to perform the separation. Instead, you can provide the mixture to the model, even if the model has never seen the mixture at training time. But you can sampling you can recover the individual stem that belongs to the mixture. Okay, so this is the pipeline, more or less. So you can, at training time, you start from clean samples, you add noise, and you inject into the model, and you ask for the clean version of the sample. Instead, in the inference time, you start from, in this case, 4 noises, and you do the reverse. So you denoise these 4 noises, and you sample from the distribution you have learned at training time. Okay, so for total generation, as I said, we have learned the most simple task, because we have learned the score function, so the gradient over the probability distribution of our data. You start from 4 noises, and you just started denoising. You just start denoising this noise. These noises, and step after step, you reach for you reach 4 stems. So basically, stem generation, unconditional, so total generation. This is a little bit tricky, at least trickier than the previous one, because here you fix a subset of stems. In this case, we fix the number 1 and the number 3. What does it mean? It means that you take the number 1 and number 3. Okay, so you add noise, lots of noise. So number 1 and number 3 are really noisy sample, but in the background there is still the original signal. Instead, the number 2 and number 4 in this case are completely noisy. Okay, pure noise. Then you inject these 4 stems into the model. You get a prediction. So basically, you get the noisy version of these 4 stems. You discard the prediction of number 1 and number 3, and you replace these 2 with the clean version, because these are fixed. The clean version with the addition of the noise at that level of the denoising step, and you do it recursively. So basically, the number 2 and the number 4 in this case are generated conditioned on the results of the previous one, the previous two. Is it clear or? Yeah. So let's say you have 100 steps. So you start from initial. You start from here. So number 1 and number 2 are really noisy. You inject into the model the 4 stems. You get a prediction. You get a prediction for all of these 4s, because the model has been trained to predict all of these 4 stems. Instead, you retain the number 2, number 4, because you want to generate number 2 and number 4, but you discard the prediction for number 1 and number 3, because you already have the clean signal. You already have the original one, and you replace these 2 with the noisy signal at that level of time.
You use the same noise level at training time. Do you use the same? You have this at the training time.
The training time, we use the Keras framework.
You use like different noise for each.
No, not the same.
The same noise for each.
Yeah, exactly. So because otherwise this task is not possible.
But you would need you would need a time step for each.
Yeah, exactly.
And then embedding for each, that you would have like 4 denoising processes.
Yeah, correct. Instead, in this work, we only have one noise for everything. Yeah. Then for source separation, we start from 4 noises, okay, and we inject the mixture. But how exactly? Well, we define the likelihood, so the probability of the mixture at time t given the stems at time t as a Dirac function. Okay, we call Dirac likelihood. So we define this probability as 1 when the mixture is equal to the sum of the stems. Okay. Given this, we can constrain one stem, so we can basically take one stem on the other side of the equation and the mixture on the right side. We can constrain one stem, and if we do this, then the posterior score, that one, can be proved to be of this form. So basically, the posterior score is approximately the difference between the score function of channel m, because here m goes from 1 to 4, because we have 4 channels, all right? The last channel is constrained, the last stem is constrained, so this posterior score is the difference between the score function predicted by the network, and Z is basically the stems, the list of stems, but the last one is replaced by the mixture minus the sum of the other stems. With the algorithm, maybe it's a little bit more clear. So we start from initialize X as a pure noise, okay? Then discard everything, but here we describe Z, we define Z as the list of the stems. Let's say we have stem 0, 1, and 2. Okay? And the last stem, so the third stem, is the mixture. So in this way you inject the mixture inside the noising process. It's the mixture minus the sum of the others, of the other stem. Then you define the score function through which you update your step as for each channel as the difference between the score function predicted by one channel minus the score function predicted by the last channel, and you can do it recursively and updating the line 13, updating your stems, and reaching the list of separated stems basically. And you have to do this process at each time step. So basically, here at the beginning you have the sum of noise. So you have the mixture minus the sum of the other noises, and step by step, of course, you start denoising your stems, and the mixtures. This becomes similar to an audio. Okay, so the sum of at the beginning the sum of the stems is noisy, and then at the end the sum of the stems are it's an audio basically. So this we invented basically this way in order to condition the generation of a diffusion model with something that has never seen it before, and so you didn't need to train. We didn't need to train the diffusion model conditioned on an external input, but just you can inject the condition at inference time. Okay. There were previous work that worked with Gaussian likelihood. So basically, the likelihood is not a Dirac, but is of the Gaussian forms, and the posterior, okay, the gradient of the posterior is similar to us, but in this case you need to have instead of the score function of the last item, you have the gamma, okay, this formula, and our Dirac likelihood is the limiting case for gamma that tends to 0. Here you have more freedom because you need to sample from Gaussian distribution, and instead you can think of, but with the Dirac it's more constrained, so you don't have much freedom, and maybe the results are not so good. But actually, Dirac sampler seems to work better than Gaussian sampling. With Gaussian, this kind of Gaussian likelihood. Okay, so these are some results with FAD, quality and coherence. We train our model on stems, and we train also another model with mixtures. And actually, the MSDM is the model trained on stems is better than the model trained on mixtures. And also, we did a listening test, and the quality and the coherence seems to be better than the model trained on mixtures. Then we test the separation. We test against Demux and train on Slack by Manilo, and a Demux version plus give steps is another variation of Demux. The original Demux is from Defosse, from Meta. Okay, here we are. This is a slightly different version from the model I presented you, but more or less it's the same. And we can see that our model can separate better the bass and the drums compared to Demux, even if we are not state of the art on all the 4 stems. Okay, so here we can listen to some samples. Okay, as I said, it's can be considered as a prehistoric music generator because it sounds like MIDI because the Slack dataset it's like a synthesized dataset starting from MIDI. Also here. And we worked directly in the waveform domain, not in the latent space. So work maybe also this was a difficulty because maybe training in the latent space, the model could understand more the structure, the coherence of stems, as in different, for example. Source imputation also is funny. We have an input drum track. Here is the generation of piano. And also some separation. It's quite good. This is the mixer. This is the bass. The guitar. There's some leakage from drums, but it's interesting that also in this dataset the piano sounds like a guitar, but the model was able still to separate them. There's some leakage from the guitar, in fact. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, of course, the drum is the best to be separated. Okay. Then the second work is latent diffusion bridges for unsupervised musical audio timbre transfer. In this work, we focused more on how to exploit a diffusion model in order to perform at inference time at timbre transfer. Okay, this work has been done also with Eloy, and really big help. Thanks, Eloy. And we started. We started with thinking about Schrödinger bridge, but it didn't work. Later I will tell you why, in my opinion. What is translation? So let's say you want to translate something like an image or a speech into another speech or another image. You want to preserve, abstract something, and you want to change other stuff. Let's say you want to preserve the pose of an animal, but changing the nature of that animal. Let's say from a cat to a dog, or you want to do a voice conversion or a musical timbre transfer. Key challenges. Well, ideally you need paired data. You need paired data in order to do this timbre transfer, in order to change only the attribute that you want to change. But when you don't have paired data, the model must be able to isolate the attribute that you want to retain. The key advantages of our method is that our method is unsupervised, so we don't need paired data, and also it requires only a linear number of models, because let's say you want to convert a violin into a flute or a violin into a bassoon. You don't need to train paired models. You just need to train one model on violin, one model on flute, and one model on bassoon, and then you can do all the transfer that you want. We worked only with stems, so it's timbre transfer between stems, not on timbre transfer between mixtures. And also, for example, we have also privacy preserving modality, because we work directly on embeddings. We didn't work on waveforms, so you can train on embeddings without having access directly to the data. And this technique is cool, I think, because you have a trade-off between melody preservation and timbre transfer. So because we will see later that the transfer depends on how much noise you add to the diffusion model at inference time. So in this case, this is similar to a Schrödinger bridge, okay? But it isn't. I mean, you start training two different models. So you have a diffusion model trained on violin and diffusion model trained on flute. So just without any conditioning, just train on stems of violin and the first model, and on stems on flute, the second model. Then you start from, then at inference time, a diffusion model starts from noise, pure noise, and then you recover you generate a sample. In this case, instead, you take a sample, a clean sample of violin, for example, and you inject it into the model of violin, okay? And but in order to, the model is able to, diffusion model, if you, with another solver, basically remove noise from sample. Instead here, if you change, instead of, this is the normal other solver, if you change, this one, sigma n minus 1, sigma 0, if you reverse it, instead of removing noise, you can add noise, okay, in a deterministic way. So from a clean sample, you can reach Gaussian sample, and then you take this sample and you inject in the second model. So the starting point of the second model is not like pure Gaussian noise, but it's your noisy sample. So your clean sample and step after step noise with some level of noise. In this way, the model should be able to understand something, okay, from the noisy sample and retain the melody, but generating harmonics that are harmonics that belongs to the model, to the instrument on which you have trained the second model. This is the algorithm. So basically, I said that this is deterministic because you start from x0 equals x, so you start from clean sample, and then basically you usually in Keras, in the stochastic, in a stochastic way, you inject noise in order to do the backward diffusion process, right? Instead here you don't inject any noise, and you compute di, that is the difference between the sample and the output of the network, and you use this di to update your x. In this way, step after step, your sample is noisy, more noisy, okay? There's more noise until you reach x and line 10. That is really noisy sample, not pure Gaussian, because if you have pure Gaussian, then the second model will invent the melody, will invent everything. Instead, should be in the xn should be some information about the original sample. In fact, for example, here there is the trade-off between timbre and melody. Here, this xn minus 1 is the maximum, the maximum level of noise that we add to this sample. So if you add like 100, it's a really high level of noise. Then the second model, you inject this noisy violin into the second model. This is a flute. You will generate a really good flute audio sample, but with a melody that is not at all this one. But if you keep decreasing the maximum level of noise, you will have audio sample with the melody similar to the original one, but with the timbre of the second model. And here, for example, here we added a really low level of noise, and the melody is the same, but the generated flute is not a flute because it's a mix between a flute and violin, because not only the melody has been retained, but also some harmonics. I said that, we were, at the beginning we started thinking about Schrödinger bridge, but we realized that Schrödinger bridge didn't work so well, because many works we have seen with NVIDIA works, for example, about speech, but these works supposed to have like speech enhancement. So the the corrupted samples and the enhanced samples have something in common. So like you have the background is the same, you need to create the missing frequency, let's say. So there's some information, so there should be some information leaking between the samples, in my opinion. It said here in the timbre transfer, you don't need, you need to generate something similar to another stuff, and these two samples only have in common the melody, the main melody, and you need to generate the harmonics. And I think it's a harder task than only generate the missing frequency of a speech. But this is only my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. For this work, we have used total oral dataset that is a synthesized dataset from Magenta, from Manila. 13 solo instruments, so 3 categories: strings, woodwind, and brass. The original sample rate is 16 kHz, but since we worked with embeddings from encodec, we needed to upsample from 16 to 24 kHz. And we had lots of hours. This is a public available dataset, and to be a public dataset, it's kind of a huge dataset, I would say. For the metrics, we use these 4 metrics. The first 2 in order to check the melody similarity, and the other 2 to check the nature of the musical instrument. So if the accuracy of the transfer, the quality of the transfer. So if it's a correct violin or a flute or a bassoon or whatever. Yes, these are some results. So we have, for example, here we have a source violin and target flute for the first line. 3 different models: VAE GAN, GFP, and our model. We can see that our model, in this case, has the best accuracy and the best FAD, even though it doesn't have the best melody preservation. But for example, from flute to violin, yes, and also from flute to bassoon. The accuracy in the timbre is always 100%, so it's really high compared to the previous models. For example, GFB has like 0% of accuracy, so it's quite good. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, always very frustrated across papers with the differences in scale of FAD.
Okay.
Because I get some things around 0.4, 0.2, and 34. I don't know, of course these things change a lot depending on what's your reference set. And I wonder what's the size of your candidate and reference sets for FAD, because like I can experience these scales, but when you use very small sample sizes.
Yeah, exactly, correct, exactly. There are different. We found, for example, that the implementation of FAD from Microsoft is totally different from implementation from Good. There is another good FAD implementation in GitHub, and these produce different results. Also depending on the backbone that you use. The Clap Lion.
Of course, that the embedding is but really generally the scale generally depends on the sample size. So do you remember? I mean, this is an old paper. Maybe you don't remember, right? Just for curiosity, because this is what kind of makes you anchor a little bit the scale, like how many samples did you use in the reference set?
Does it give you like more stable distribution and lower FAD? In general, the scale, the absolute scale of the FAD will be in general lower when you use a bigger.
Yes, exactly. That's it. So if you have very small sample sizes, generally you have very big FADs. Even for real data, if you take 200 samples of real data and 200 of real data, and you do their FAD, you get very high FADs.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but something around hundreds, not thousands.
Not thousands.
Not thousands, exactly. Yeah. But thanks for the suggestion. Maybe we could check.
It's just to interpret a little bit, because even for me, because it's so frustrating that you go read papers. Each paper has their own scaling. It's like, well, what am I doing wrong? I get a 0 point, or I get this scale, and it's just so frustrating. Sorry.
No, it's a good point. Yeah, thank you. You're right. Maybe I need to check it, the scale of the
Another thing I also generally do recently is I put as a baseline, just for reference, I take real data, 2 sets, one taking it as if it was a reference and a candidate, and I do FAT between sets of real data. So it gives you like an upper bound on performance.
I see. Yeah, these are synthesized. Also, some instruments that are out of distribution for many models, because like a cello, bassoon, usually don't have real data on stems on these musical instruments, right? So
It's okay.
Maybe with mixers, FAD works even better than stems, and stems generated by synthesizers of a particular musical instrument. Maybe it's even worse yet. Could be. Yeah, exactly. Here then also we tried, for example, we tried to do the transfer between flute and bassoon, or flute and cello, but we noticed that the transfer didn't work, because flute and bassoon or flute and cello, they have 2 different octave ranges. So what we did was to pitch shift the flute down to the more or less the octave range of these other 2 musical instruments, and then perform the transfer. Actually, it worked for not for the timbre accuracy, but for the pitch. It worked really well. And okay, here are some other results, because in this table there are sigma max and sigma n minus 1. Sigma max is the maximum level of noise used at training time, and sigma n minus 1 is the maximum level of noise used at inference time. So we use you can, for example, for violin and flute, you reach also good quality transfer and pitch preservation. Also, if you use really small noise, because these 2 instruments are really similar, both in the octave range and on the sounds that they produce, right? For other, but for example, for flute or bassoon, it's better to train. It depends. This is really engineer stuff, because you need to test the level of noise on which you want to train at training time, and then you need to test with different level of noise at inference time. This with diffusion model. Maybe with if you train in flow matching style, it could be easier, because you have only a linear interpolation between noise and samples. You don't have all of these parameters about noise levels and blah blah blah. Okay. So here are some samples that we can listen to. For example, this is a flute, the source. This is the violin. So the melody is preserved. Also, the timbre has changed. This is instead in the trumpet. Okay. This is, for example, for pitch shift. So this is the normal flute, no pitch shift, and this is the generated bassoon. Really weird bassoon with totally different melody. Instead, if we pitch shift the flute, in order to make it more similar to the distribution of the target data, here we have. Not the same.
Similar, but
yeah, exactly.
Improvisation.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, then, so in this paper, so in this work, we took two pre-trained models. So we trained diffusion model, but then we took it, and at different time we try to do this transfer. Basically, the adding noise and then put it reversing during the reverse process, injecting this noise inside another model. Okay, this is a common way in order to condition a diffusion model on some external conditioning, right? So like adding noise, and then when you go back, you insert some conditioning in order to denoise it and steering the noise in where you want to go. Instead, in this work, recently accepted at IEEE, steering music, enhanced musical consistency for zero-shot test guided and personalized music editing. We didn't add noise and then under a backward process and backward phase try to steer and condition the model, but we directly work in the data space in order to condition the generative model in the data space. We will see in a minute. So, as I said, many diffusion-based models, the editing pipeline consists of adding noise and then put some guidance during the backward process. In this case, let's say we have a sample, X0 source, in our data space, and this is with the caption relaxing guitar music. So this is a piece of audio with guitar, and the caption is relaxing guitar music. Ideally, this audio samples comes from noise. Okay, ideally comes from a Gaussian noise, and when you do the denoising step, you get step by step to the source sample. So let's say you start adding noise, okay, to this sample, you get a point, a noisy. This is noisy sample, time t. Then you change the caption. Instead of relaxing guitar music, you inject a relaxing piano music. So let's forget this one, but let's focus on this one. So this will be your guidance at inference time, so during the backward process, and you get something that is different from you wanted to get. Moreover, if you take this sample as just a clean sample, you add the noise, you reach here, and then you want to go back to the original one with the same prompt. Still, you get something different from this. So you don't have this cycle consistency preservation, and you have something called inversion error. So still, this is difficult and introduce an error. Moreover, if you change the caption with the target prompt, you introduce even more error. So you are not able to modify what you want to modify from in the original audio, but you can modify lots of stuff that you want to preserve, for example. So steer music, perform editing directly in the data space. You need to have a pre-trained diffusion model, a source sample, and the source prompt, and a target prompt that you want to achieve. Basically, using the same noise level at the same time step, you take the output of this diffusion pre-trained model, depending on the input, and then you compute a delta, so a direction to follow in order to change your sample in order to get to the target sample, to create this target sample. In this way, the model is able to, let's say, recognize what is in common and cancelling from the modification, and just modify what you want to modify, okay, on the request modification. Okay, so this is the overview. Here we have epsilon phi, that is our pre-trained model, and we have x source t, that is our source sample at time t, and y source is the source prompt, so relaxing guitar music, okay? T is the noise level or time step. Instead here we have the target prompt and the noise at time t, the pure noise at time t. Here we have the source sample, the noisy source sample at time t. So the noise, the time step and the noisy level is the same for both. you take the same diffusion model, you inject 2 different inputs, you get 2 different outputs, and then you compute the difference, and you multiply it by the gradient of x with respect to theta. What is x and theta? Let's say you have your source sample is generated by a generator. That can be a synthesizer with some parameters or another model. In our case, we tried many stuff, and we just decided to take x equal x. So directly we modify the input, the input data. If you compute this, then you compute a delta. Okay, exactly. In order to with this delta, with gradient descent, you update directly your data, and you modify directly the data in order to follow this gradient in order to get to the x0 edit, so to the target prompt with the target to the target sample with the correct target prompt. So this is no training, only inference time. But let's say you want to be able, so in this way you change only what you want to change. So you can have quite fine-grained control, not so fine, but you have control over the modification. And but let's say you want to have even more control. So you want to change just one attribute. Let's say just as in this case, just the guitar, and leaving everything else unchanged, unaltered. Well, if you have, we also introduced in the same paper Music Plus, and let's say you have a data set of prompts, okay, and for each prompt you have multiple samples, okay, multiple samples, and the prompts are of the form, let's say, a recording of a S, where S is the token, is the concept that you want to change. So you take this data set and you can fine-tune your model in order to understand this concept word. There can be a musical instrument, a genre, or whatever, and you can fine-tune this model with this, let's say, small data set. So I like the previous one, it was 0 shot. This can be considered as a few shots learning. And once you have fine-tuned the model, you can do the same procedure basically, but instead of having epsilon phi, you have epsilon phi prime, because if you're only on the left side of the difference, that is your fine-tuned model, and in this way you have a really fine-grained control over the modification, over the editing of your data. So here, the fun in this case is reasonable, and in this case we use we compare against different models, the DIM as the edit, Music Magus, and Zeta. Our model seems to be better with respect to some metrics, and we also perform a listening test, and our model against another model. This is 0 shot results, and it's quite promising. We also perform experiments on the personalized versions of Siri Music Plus, so the fine-tuning version. Also in this case, we got quite good results, also both from FID and from listening test. And now, we can listen to some examples. So this is a recording of a piano music with no percussion, propeller sound, and male narrative voice at the end at moderate tempo. Here we can listen to Music Magus, and the target prompt we want to change only from piano to trumpet. So this is the 0 shot results. This is the competitor. There's no trumpet, I think. This is, instead is our model. that's the trumpet, but also the voice at the end seems to be a trumpet too. Yeah. If you listen at the end, there's a male voice. And here, since we want to change from piano to trumpet, also the model interpreted the voice as a piano, in fact. The voice.
Or a duck.
Yeah, sorry?
Or a duck.
Yeah.
So the model gets as input the source music, the
Exactly.
source prompt, and the target prompt.
Exactly.
The three of them.
Yeah, exactly. And it modified the source music in order to just edit directly the data without anything else. Directly modifying the data and modifying the data in order to achieve the result.
The target prompt has to be really well aligned with the source prompt. Like what happens if you say a piano instead of a trumpet instead of a recording of a trumpet? Like, can you remove things and make?
And the more you adhere,
the original.
Yeah, exactly. The better it is.
Like there has to be some alignment between the source and target.
Yeah, exactly. Or let's say you also the source music, a recording featuring acoustic guitar, mellow, piano with passionate male vocals and crowd noises. And the target prompt is a recording featuring acoustic guitar, mellow, harp with passionate male vocals and crowd noises. Okay. For example, let's say Zeta. So weird. Instead, here our model. Of course, also the mixing quality changed. No, because here you have the good music, no, mixed in a good way. Instead, here you lose like a bass frequencies, but there's like an harp instead of a piano, and the voice also has been retained. So this is zero shot, no training. Instead, here. Okay, here we train with few samples, so prompts, and for each prompt, few samples where we highlight what we want to learn. So, for example, a sitar, buzuki, or ocarina, for example. Here we have a recording of finger-style acoustic guitar with a classical atmosphere taken from Music.AI. With sitar. Also have a guitar tutorial with energetic technique and ambient noises.
Right away, a whole step up. And I'm doing the same thing on the string above it. And then follow.
We want to change in a buzuki.
Right away, a whole step up. And I'm doing the same thing on the string above it. And then follow.
Or the last one, for example, a recording of an intense rhythm drum battle. And we still with buzuki, so it's a rhythmic instrument, and this is now it's a melodic instrument, so that should sound some notes. Yeah, so that's all. That's all, and thank you. If you have questions,
Right.